What's so interesting about this one is just the level of commitment, really. We're diving into a transcript that refutes Candace Owens' claims about Charlie Kirk's Gaza view and also defends his widow, Erika, against a really nasty smear campaign.
Yeah, the foundation is incredibly solid. There's a ton of evidence, and the moral clarity just, it cuts right through everything.
It really does. So the question becomes, when you have that much factual firepower, how do you aim it for maximum impact?
And I think that leads us right to our first point. It's all about harnessing that emotion.
Exactly. So while the speaker's emotional intensity demonstrates a powerful commitment to exposing falsehoods, that same passion occasionally obscures the precision of the logical refutation.
Right. You can see it in the language.
You do. I mean, we get these highly charged phrases pretty frequently. Dingbats, psychotic monster, Candy Stinking Owens.
And look, that outrage is completely justified. No question.
Oh, absolutely. But the risk is that by leading with it, the whole thing can feel reactive rather than purely analytical. It's engaging for people who are already convinced, but it might be a barrier for someone on the fence.
It's that classic challenge, isn't it? How do you keep the fire without, accidentally burning down some of your own credibility? You don't want to be pulled down to the level of just a shouting match.
So the suggestion here is about rechanneling it.
That's it. Rechannel that intensity. The idea is to front-load the facts, lead with the hard evidence, the direct contradictions.
Let the absurdity of the opponent's argument speak for itself.
Exact. Let the evidence create the shock in the audience, instead of having the speaker's outrage lead the way.
That's a huge shift. You're not telling the audience how to feel, you're just giving them the proof, and the feeling becomes unavoidable.
It becomes the only logical reaction. So you deploy that emotion tactically. You save it for the moments where it'll have the most punch, right after you've laid down the facts.
Okay, so a concrete example. The opening right now might start with something like, "What I find utterly disgusting among many things is..."
Which immediately signals high emotion.
Right, so instead of that,
Instead, you could restructure it to be almost clinically factual at first. Just state Charlie Kirk's documented position on Gaza.
the TR depression, the no starvation comments, all the public record stuff.
All of it. And then, only then, you introduce Owens' completely unverified story about a private conversation where he supposedly said it was morally wrong.
Ah, the juxtaposition does all the work. The lie just hangs there, completely exposed next to the public record.
It's an indictment by comparison. The conclusion that it's disgusting is it's just inevitable for the listener. And the source of that feeling is the opponent's action, not just the speaker's words.
I see. And this would apply elsewhere too, right? Like with the biblically murderous tribe stuff?
That's a perfect example. The speaker asks these great, sharp questions like, is it Judah Benjamin? What tribe does it come from? It really highlights how superficial the original claim is.
It's a great moment.
And our suggestion is to deliver those lines in a much calmer, more analytical tone. That cool, measured dissection creates this incredible contrast with the wild claims being made. It just screams rationality.
It shows control. Like you're so confident in the facts, you don't even need to raise your voice. That makes the argument feel even stronger.
You're showing that your passion is earned through the facts, not just a default setting. And that really builds authority.
Okay, let's move on to structure. Because there's a point in this material where the gravity of the situation just changes completely.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about the pivot from the political arguments to the straight-up personal defamation.
Exact. The material moves seamlessly between refuting broad political commentary and debunking highly specific, fabricated personal attacks, a transition that needs more explicit structural signaling to emphasize the escalation of malicious intent.
And right now, that transition is a little too seamless.
It is. We have segment A, which is the political stuff, Gaza, war crimes, the usual arguments. And then you have segment B, which is this incredibly severe personal attack on Erika Kirk.
The fake CPS report, the nanny stories, the AI video.
I mean, they're just not the same category of thing. One is distasteful politics. The other is something else entirely.
Yeah, and the audience needs to feel that shift. You have to register the escalation. Arguing about a deceased person's political views online is one thing, but manufacturing conspiracies to harm their family?
It's a different universe of malice, and the structure needs to reflect that.
So the suggestion is to basically treat these as two separate chapters. A part 1 and a part 2. And you need a really clear signpost between them, a transitional statement that tells the listener, okay, we are now entering a much more serious phase of this.
You're marking the shift from a debate to documenting really a campaign of actionable harm.
Exactly. You could even use that language. after you finish the section on Gaza, you could say something that really flags the change.
Something with more weight?
Yes. Like, having established the pattern of using the deceased for political leverage, we must now examine the documentation of this campaign's more sinister tactic, the manufacturing of low-effort, AI-fueled conspiracies targeting Erika Kirk.
And then maybe add something like,
This isn't political disagreement anymore. This is documented malice.
oh, documented malice. I like that. That phrase does a lot of work. It reframes everything that's about to come.
It raises the stakes. And then when you get into those specific allegations against Erika Kirk, you lead with the proof of fabrication.
Before the emotion.
Always. Before the emotion. You point to the misstatement by Ana Paula Luna. You highlight the very obviously fake AI video. You build the case for deliberate deceit brick by brick.
So the foundation is solid before you even get to the impact.
Precisely. You're not just saying, this is horrible. You're showing why it's a malicious, orchestrated fabrication. It makes the accusation impossible to just brush aside.
That's a much more powerful structure. Okay, so that brings us to the last major point, which is kind of related. It's about bulletproofing the arguments against some of these more entrenched conspiracy theories.
Right. This is about making the refutation unassailable.
To maximize the material's robustness, the refutation of certain entrenched geopolitical myths needs to briefly acknowledge the nuance of the false claim before providing the supported alternative.
The Hamas funding section is a great place to look at this.
Yeah. The speaker is very passionate, very direct, refutes the Israel-funded Hamas idea by just saying, no, they didn't. Iran funded Hamas.
And then dismisses the more complex counterclaim, the Israel funded Iran to fund Hamas thing, just by saying, don't be so blind.
And while the conviction is there, and it's correct, that quick dismissal, it can feel a little thin to a skeptic who's really deep in that conspiracy world.
It gives them an out. You know, these layered myths are sticky because there's often a tiny, distorted kernel of historical fact at their core. So if you just dismiss the whole thing out of hand...
The skeptic thinks you just don't know the deep story. They think they know.
Exactly. And it undermines the speaker's authority, which is otherwise so strong.
So the move is to actually lean into the complexity for a moment.
Just for a second, the suggestion is to briefly acknowledge that there's historical context that gets twisted and then pivot hard to the modern reality.
It's a way of saying, I've seen your counterargument, I understand it, and it's irrelevant to what's happening now.
Precisely. It disarms them. You could say something like, while there's some historical context around early interactions that often gets misrepresented, the contemporary substantial funding documented by all legitimate sources comes from Qatar and Iran.
And then you bring it back. Let's focus on the documented sources that are actually fueling a conflict today.
Yes, that phrasing is so authoritative. It strengthens the speaker's bigger point, which is that Charlie knew the facts. You're demonstrating that you can handle the nuance better than the people spreading the myth.
You're not just dismissing their point. You're showing you understand it better than they do, and you're still dismissing it.
And for this audience, that's huge. You're building a truly bulletproof case. You're showing intellectual honesty, which then gives you the right to have that righteous outrage we talked about at the beginning.
It all connects. It's a complete system.
It is. It makes every claim that follows feel heavier, more credible.
Well, we've covered a lot here. I think these are some really solid refinements for what is already a very powerful piece of work.
I completely agree. The core of this is excellent. The listener has the facts. They have the moral clarity. This is all just about maximizing the persuasive force of that argument.
So to just quickly recap the big three suggestions, first, rechannel that powerful emotion so that it follows the facts. Let the evidence do the heavy lift.
Second, really build a clear structural wall between the critique of political commentary and the documentation of the personal smear campaign. Use a strong transition to signal that shift.
And third, to make the arguments truly bulletproof, briefly acknowledge the nuance in complex myths before pivoting back with authority to the supported contemporary facts.
Those are really it. They're strategic changes that are going to help this message land with even greater clarity and power without losing any of its necessary fire.
We really do encourage you to work with these ideas and submit the updated transcript back to us. We would love to see how this argument evolved.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep challenging yourself to get better at what you do.